Hey y'all, grown black folks talk back out on the climb on a beautiful winter day. It's been a lot of rain, but it's been this is the first day. It just woke up clear, and I thought, well, let me get on out there while I have a chance. Today and tomorrow should look pretty good, but tomorrow I've got to go take care of various orders of business, so we'll see if I have time to sneak up on the hill, one of the hills that I'm going up on, and get something done. We'll see. The thought I had in my mind, though, is that like this beautiful day, there's a lot of stuff that I'm thinking about and kind of going through in my mind as I reconsider the lessons from 2024 and really seek to get them deeply into me. I have been leaning into biography of new people that I'm learning about and watching leadership videos about how you lead in collaborative situations where everybody's a partner, and examining the value systems of cultures that fit mine better than the United States of America. Literally, much better. And just kind of looking at what's out there because 2024 is open. And in the middle of this, I keep meeting black men that are my father's caliber. And not but, I realize now what that is. Because these are men that have exited the main culture. Just as some of the men that I am learning about in other cultures have pretty much, of course, not being American men, are not part of this particular culture. Now, they may be part of other odious cultures, but some groups of people have progressed a little bit more. Because in the United States, about every 50 years, we try to revert. You can track that. You can track that almost to the beginning of American history, in that you can look at when progress was made toward people having more rights and the tremendous fights against it. You can almost track that. From 1865, you can track it. The end of slavery, the franchise given to black men at least, and then by 1915, the African Exclusion Act defeated, last effort of Booker T. Washington, and then you have World War I, and black men do really well there, and you have race riots. And the clock is rolled back for another 50 years, until 1965. Well, if you do your mathematics, Donald Trump comes into office in 2017. The Confederate flags all come out. The statues of Robert E. Lee are defended, another 50. So we're in one of those cycles that follows. There's always a regression. Some cultures have not regressed as much. They still have their elements of people that are definitely no good and definitely dangerous to all good in the world. But some cultures do better in controlling that than others. And then there are cultures where people are just decided they're just going to live their life. Stephanie Perry has been talking about Pura Vida, which is, of course, the big thing in Costa Rica. And there are cultures that epitomize this well. Now, no culture is without problems. That's not impossible. But while studying this, I realized that my father is such a man that has largely exited the expectations of black culture even at his time. He is someone who has always modeled to me a man sufficiently in his own mastery so that my existence does not cause him to be insecure. He married my mother, a brilliant woman, and they never had arguments about that. The arguments that I remember with them having, two very, very, very intelligent people passionately disputing one another. Not pleasant. But there was never a sense of there was no way. And again, my father also was students with, my mother's mother was a student of Dr. Desi Webster. So my father was already very much involved in the brilliance of black women and had been a beneficiary of it. And always honored that. So you did not have those kinds of demeaning things. They had very, very serious arguments, but they were not demeaning in that sense. There was no conversation from my father about, black women and their degrees don't mean anything. I never heard any of that. My father valued that about my mother because that meant that his children could have the education that he felt that they should have. And that he didn't have to hire anyone else to do that. He and Mom were able to work together, two brilliant individuals. But my father was never part of course, being born in 1936 had the advantage of military service, had the advantage of being in different unions when unions were strong, had a lot of advantages, and never, by the time he became a Christian out in his mid-30s, but he just was never quite part of the culture of black men destroying women to stand on top of them. He just never was part of that. He also was very sensitive to how different things had hurt his mother and his sister. And he never was someone who wanted to perpetuate that. So I keep meeting men of his caliber because I look for them. They're out there. At the same time, what has gone from my life, and this is one of the things I got from year 42, any sense of feeling that I have to have a man like that in dominion over me, or otherwise my life is not complete as a woman. As good as a man is, and my father would be the standard, still not necessary. The Lord made me sufficient to my life as I am with him. And that became a thing when I really read 1 Corinthians 7 and realized that the Lord said to those who he called that it's better for everybody to be single and that he will take care of his children equally. He does not say that, well, let me put it this way. If as a Christian, I'm a part of a worldwide community, meaning that I can expect help to render aid to people around the world who claim the name of Christ. And if the Spirit of God is in them, they'll provide it. They won't always even know it. It's been about 7 years since I snapped a whole muscle in my left leg. And I remember that the Lord had the Christians find me. I couldn't do anything for myself. They had wrapped my leg in a cast so big to give it a chance to heal. Now, I'm not small. I am the proud owner of 2 good thunder thighs. It is what it is, people. They had wrapped that thing. You would think it would take Thor's hammer to break that cast that they put my leg in. So with that being the case, I couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. The Lord had all these wonderful people find me. People that I've known for years who came and brought me the kind of food that I needed in terms, because I'm one of those people. Somebody bought me some greens one day, and that helped me finally be able to get my digestive system working after anesthesia and all these things. The people that came to do a lot of the care that I need to not have blood clots and all the rest. And we just up there praise the Lord. Somebody bought me a bag. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord. It was so, it was lovely. It was lovely. That actually was a time of great peace for me, in a way. He had people, and all colors and shades. Racism did not exist. Well, there was. There was this one person. Convents with Love and I'll talk about that another day. Who did not think that her life ought to be serving me and cleaning up after me with bedpans and all. There was this one person. But that she was a minority. She was a minority. So I don't worry about having a brotherhood and a sisterhood and needing it to be the black community and needing the brothers to all be black men. I don't worry about that. I was on my way out here and I stopped and someone was talking to me about hiking and walking. His name is Ian. And he was telling me about, okay, natural emotions. If you get attacked by someone, this is what you should do with your leg. This is not the strongest motion. This is. If you need to walk up a hill, this is not the most natural motion. This is why this works. I was just walking by and smiling. I got all this information from Ian, like the other man named Ian who picked down a whole fruit tree for me once. I was just walking by and smiling and doing what I was doing. See, your people gonna find you. And this was the other thing that I have been studying. As I have been studying, y'all in them double exhaust my motorcycle. We want to make sure we don't get run over because we're going to know where y'all are half a mile away. Collaborative leadership, because I'm a choir director. And I'm out here doing world premieres every 3 months now with my choir. Able to teach them totally new music, compose it, teach it, go. And that kind of skill is not going to always be confined. So I'm studying great conductors of history, great choir directors. And also with that, watching TEDx talks about collaborative leadership. And what you find about the greatest of collaborative leaders is that they led through, ferocious preparation, which I also do, which I learned from my dad also. Ferocious preparation for everything. I was sitting up there getting ready to publish something. I've been messing with it. It's been done for 6 days. I've been messing with it for it's been done for 4 days. I've been messing with it ever since. Just adding to it, improving it. That's what I have in common with my favorite classical. Well, actually, Bach is not my favorite classical composer. Beethoven is second. But Bach and Beethoven both, the master. But Beethoven was terrible about this. He messed up for 20 years, just to be sure. That one note over here. Well, the piece of music I'm teaching to my choir for performance this Sunday, I finally found that last chord. I wrote that in 2019 and was planning to present it in 2020. That didn't happen. But the chord, the last chord that I really needed, that was waiting for me on the last Sunday in 2023. I'm like, oh, it's done now. It wasn't done then. That's why it was held up. So when you have that kind of talent and that kind of ability, you want to learn how to lead people in a way which does not require chattel relations. And that brings me back to the culture of black men. I'm not getting married to that culture. No. See, I grew up watching that culture of men run out of time in my own neighborhood. You know why I can walk peacefully through my own neighborhood and not be bothered and learn from the men on the street now? Because my peers and their fathers are gone. My father and the families headed by righteous black men and women survived. And we enjoy the fruits of righteousness. But my father was not going to let me participate in the culture growing up around me, a culture in which we sit up and call ourselves B's and H's and N's and think that's cute. But as Shantae Charles of Black Table Talk said to me, she said, look, you got to remember, in the Bible, God's people could not be cursed until they cursed themselves. And I'm sitting up there like, okay, 45 years. And we have to say black men and women now, sitting up there putting curses on us, putting the curses of slave owners back on us, sitting up there talking about us Motley Percocetting, and being paid well to do it. And what y'all don't know is that when sharecropping wasn't working as well, a lot of those old guys began the process of setting up race music. If you look at music contracts to this day and you look at old sharecropping contracts, that's the same contract. So you have to understand, these men moved into making chattel of black music and musicians. See, there's a reason I sit out here and look at the greatest musicians in the world in both classical and jazz. Jazz, too, is very collaborative. One person is not the person that so dominates that the others do not get a chance to grow and express themselves. It has to be done in a partnership. And if you notice, that kind of thinking has completely fallen out of mass culture, especially in the black community. Well, like I said, I've already lived through what happens when you get past all that. I lived through what happens when your plantation collapses. Does anybody yet know that Robert E. Lee's plantation is now Arlington National Cemetery? And that a whole lot of the other stuff crashed and burned too. Read William Faulkner's Barn Burning sometimes. And what happened in the South. There's a book called After Appomattox. Have a look at that sometime. What happened afterwards? Eventually, your plantation, your thing that you built in injustice has to come down. God is still in his heaven. Your empire built on foolery will not stand. Period. Not forever. People do not want to hear that. Black people are not immune. So I'm not going to wed itself to a dying culture. People talk about horticulture. Okay, no. You have a culture that's okay with black men degrading women and children every day. You have a culture that's okay. I was listening to two very, very intelligent black men. They are my father's intellectual caliber. Talk about Claudine Gay, and one of them just had to make it a revenge and competition move because he's mad at what happened to some, possibly getting a copyright strike here. I'm probably going to have to get up and get moving here. But up here mad about something that happened with a professor there. Now, I haven't looked into it. It might be. But he just moved it down to the whole thing down to a revenge move. You know, that she was getting her karma just because. I'm like, she's still making $900,000 a year. and he's not. So, first of all, we need to now start thinking about is what you even saying making sense? But what was so telling about it was that he boiled that whole thing down. That she has an opportunity to do something like, I don't know, run Harvard, and he thinks a black man should have that position. So it began to be a conversation not about the merits of whether she did or didn't plagiarize, the merits of, okay, was what she said about the situation in the Middle East that bad? Everything became, how does she treat a black man? And that's all that matters. That's that acculturation, where a black woman's existence is measured only by what she has done for the black man nearest her. And now she may or may not be in a situation that has black men have better or worse chances in life. That ends up being the only consideration. He reverted back really quick. And again, this is a man of a highly intelligent mind. We're walking through the Rec and Park back patio right now. That man has a highly intelligent mind. There are many subjects on which I would listen to him. Because like I said, I keep meeting people of my father's intellectual caliber. I also keep meeting black men of his ability in different fields. I am learning so much from Mr. Cyrus Webb, who I found out about from my agent, Mr. Neil Jackson. I'm learning so much about how to handle your social media, and I'm going to be taking another class with him on Sunday. I have so enjoyed and so not been concerned and worried about all the stuff that's going on with 15 million other black men, not him, during this time period. But when you stop and think about it, folks, I need you to consider something. What does an individual's behavior actually say about 15 million people? Statistically, we know that's a crock. Statistically, we know that is a crock. For those who do statistics. And the assumption that it could ever be otherwise is bigoted. But we have to take that for what it is. Black men are quick to say, don't take your experience with a relative few of us and make that what you say about all black men. That's fair. But then again, it's fair all ways. Which is to say, I won't. Just because I continue to meet people of my father's caliber, does that mean that the mass of black men are better or worse by that? It means that, like him, some of them have exited a mindset of always wanting black women to bow down and lift them up. That's what that means. That's all that means. That I have men who are sufficiently in their mastery so they don't have to see me just existing as competition. That's what that means. That means that I have found fellow escapees of the last 40 years of having a culture, led the creation of the culture, black men paid to degrade us back to the level to which our forefathers tried so hard, our foremothers worked so hard to show the world our human dignity. And in the last 40 to 45 years, these men, for Judas wages in the grand scheme of things, have been so happy to give it back. But we're supposed to respect that. We're supposed to be with. We're supposed to do stuff for the culture. Again, I'm glad to be meeting people who are escaping. And I'm glad to be able to look at them and not have to think, okay, but I need a black man to be this. No, he can be who he is and enjoy his life Because you will not have dominion over me. I'm not wedded to this culture. I'm not. That's just not going to happen. That ship sailed actually pretty much before I was born. See, I went back and I have been looking at what people were doing in other cultures at the time that I was born, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. That people were out here working collaboratively, knowing how to treat people as partners. I look back to the time of Duke Ellington and before that when black people knew how to treat each other as partners, but even jazz tended to exclude black women, but then Hazel Scott and Ella Fitzgerald and others were there still, so they couldn't be excluded. Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday couldn't be excluded. Couldn't be. Just couldn't be. But even then you see some of the foolery in the world of instrumentation, but if you had the kind of skills and you could bring the power, okay, you still managed to work your way in. But a culture of men that just gets all nervous because a woman happens to know what she's doing. And like I said, every culture I've studied has some of the taste of this. So it's not necessarily a reflection, but we've all seen what's been going on. I'm not going to be giving time and attention to any situation where every success I have means I have to watch my back. Not gonna do that in 2024. I'm having good conversations and fellowship and growth with all kinds of people who are for the right, and also black women and some black men, and it's wonderful. But that does not have any obligation for me to play the channel making games, and I will not. And unfortunately, in relationships, it's that area where we start with foolery the most. Again, it was wonderful to hear two highly intelligent black men talking about Claudine Gay. And it's just pathetic to hear one of them, as complex as that issue is, niche it all the way down to how she handled the black male professor that this man thought should have had her spot. Way to reduce the complexity of a major issue in American life down to how you didn't feel that a black woman treated a black man right. I'm not willing to that. I'm not getting personally committed to that kind of situation. I am enjoying the people that I'm meeting, and I am enjoying them staying right where they are, enjoying them for who they are, and as the Bible said, let every person and every man, we know that it is men and women, because it specifically stated, abide in the calling in which he is called, he and she. If you're not married, don't go looking for one. If you're not divorced, if you are married, don't seek to be divorced. Stay right where God called you. And the implication is, until God calls you otherwise, you're going to be happier where you are. 1 Corinthians 7. For you Christian black women, I suggest you read it. And then look at every black man talking to you about you aren't worth anything unless you married and hold up one of them and call him in your head. But you don't have to necessarily call him this outright. But know that he is a liar. And either God is a liar or he is. And then you are able to be free to take people as they are and enjoy people in the position they are in. Until it is made very clear to you. You don't have to do anything out of some sense of twisted loyalty to give up body, mind, and spirit to make someone who is going to be threatened by how great you are. Who, whether you rise or fall, is going to measure you by competition. You don't have to feel like you have to be obligated to tie yourself to that. It's very important. It is very important that you understand that. And this is why I'm making this video. The fact that there are black men of my father's caliber does not entitle me. It does not entitle them to anything, and does not obligate me to do anything but be polite, be professional, and do mutually good things as long as we're able to do that. That's it. That's all. Meanwhile, I continue studying the other options that are available to me deeply. But right now, I'm good. I'm seeing more models and examining more models of men that I compete with professionally. Personally, I'm enjoying my studies. I'm enjoying seeing more types of men in their joy. as I have seen my father in his joy exercising his mastery as a teacher and as a father. I'm enjoying seeing more groups and types of men having this. And then, of course, reading down through their stories. All that glitters is never gold. I know my father's record. I don't know any of these other men who I'm studying that well. I tend to keep digging, and when I find out you ain't no good, we just go on from there. Because my attitude is you can't even speak for me to YouTube if you mess. No. But I'm enjoying this day. I'm enjoying giving thought to a wide open 2024. And I hope that you will too. There are people of goodwill in every group of people on this earth, but we are under obligation to none of them. And I say this to someone whose community disappeared, so it would not have mattered if I felt under obligation or not. That was their choice. I couldn't change it. So since I am relieved of that burden, except as I choose, I was making good connects today for the young people and the elders that I choose to serve. Except for those things that I choose, I'm under no obligation to them. Enjoy an open 2024. You need not take from an individual the bad of a whole group. You also need not take from an individual and assume the good of a whole group. Just take people as they are and stay free. Y'all have a good day. Bye.